Man, I think it's over. I think the season's over. Suns lost the season opener by 12 points by a score of 110-98 to Denver. And, it's over. That's it, guys. Right, dude. Who cares, man? Okay. First game of the season. Yeah, you're going to have some blips. Yeah, it didn't turn out necessarily the way that we want. But you know what? The regular season is back. The Suns jam session is back. Matthew is back. How you doing, man? Not the result that we wanted, right?
No, not at all. I mean, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And we finished last year with a loss. Let's start this season with a loss. Let's get it out of the way, And honestly, I'm not too worried. They came out, they looked pretty good. It seems like the same team, just some players on our team like Devin Booker just had an off night. We'll get it together, though. I like what I saw. Overall, I actually really, really liked what I saw. So I think going forward, dude, we got a lot to build on this loss tonight, but we got it out of the way.
That's for sure. A lot of things to build upon. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you for sure. You are off and on though.
I have
from me seeing your beautiful face.
I have crappy connection here.
Oh, cool.
There I go again.
Okay,
but you can still hear me, right?
I can hear you perfect. Yeah,
great. I have crappy internet connection here in Palm Desert, California, so you can definitely blame the Palm Desert. That's got to be what it's like.
I like this.
I'm gonna keep trying to turn my camera on, and it's gonna keep just booting me probably. But you know what? The inconsistency with my camera situation is the same exact thing that went on with the Phoenix Suns. Oh, there I go again. The same thing that went on with the Phoenix Suns today. The inconsistency shooting, the inconsistency from defending the three. Plenty of things to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. But this is a reminder to everybody that even though you might not see me, and you will, and then you won't, and then you will. But you know what? If you're listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you're here on YouTube, there I go again. I'm just going to stop.
Awesome.
I'm just going to leave
it.
Stupid fucking internet in Palm Desert. I swear to God. This hotel, the stories I could tell about this hotel I'm at, dude. I'm walking out.
Haunted stories.
I'm walking out in the parking lot this morning, walking to my truck, and there's the whole place just reeks of weed, which I don't care, but there's bongs and stuff on people's windowsills. I put water in the refrigerator here, the shelf broke. When I first checked in, I checked into a place that didn't have a TV that worked. So then they were they had to move me to another room, and now it's an ADA room. So it's everything, the ironing board is 2 feet tall. It's been a nightmare, just like the Phoenix Suns.
It's all right, man. I got you covered on my side. I got the beautiful artwork from Craig Hamill. Is it Craig? Craig Hamill. He approved me to actually put some stuff up. So this is one of my favorites. So I got it going for the first game.
So tell everybody where they can follow Craig at.
Oh, Redbubble. I don't know his thing, but you know him on Twitter. Everyone knows him. If you're in the chat right now, you know who he is. I'm sure you know his Twitter handle, right, John?
Of course. It's Craig A. Hamill.
Craig
A. Hamill does fantastic artwork relative to the Phoenix Suns. So if you're watching the podcast live, you can see up behind Matthew is some of his beautiful artwork. And if you're interested in having your artwork displayed behind Matthew, go ahead and just submit that to the show at Suns Jam on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. You can follow Matthew on Twitter.
I'm Matthew Lissy.
What are you laughing at, dude?
Because you're nothing right now, man.
I'm not even there. I'm not.
No,
even
you're
here.
Just a machine right now. I mean, I kind of like it, but we'll get through this.
Well, maybe I'll try at some point. I'm even trying literally as we talk. I'll make it look more like me, maybe. Let me put a new avatar. There you go.
Perfect.
Darth Voida.
There you go, man.
What kind of beer are you drinking?
I got a Coors Light today for the next 10 games. So
10
what do you got? You got one?
Well, hold on. Talk to yourself.
I'm talking to myself right now. I'm talking about my Coors Lights. I got 10 of them. I don't drink them unless I'm on the podcast. So I'm assuming John bought one beer for tonight from the cafe downstairs, right?
That's right. I got, I got a big ass 805 because I'm in the 805. I love this. My camera is just not working whatsoever. It's fantastic. It's not even plugged in.
It's all right.
We'll roll this. This is the crappy camera right here.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect.
It's not.
Let's do that.
Man. But see here, got the big 805. I'm gonna need it to drink this one. So it's been a while since we've chugged with some fellas. I'm not doing that because we didn't win. But you know what? Pop them if you got them, Suns fans. Oh, there it is. And let's talk about this game against the Denver Nuggets on a Wednesday night in Phoenix. Yeah, I know. It wasn't really the result that any of us wanted today. Everyone was excited for the regular season to start, and ultimately, the Phoenix Suns lose 110-98 to the Denver Nuggets at home. I'll start it with the same thing I always start all of our podcasts with.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, I got to ask, were you watching the ESPN feed or were you watching the Bally Sports feed?
Yeah, no, I was watching ESPN.
Okay.
I didn't even know it was on Bally Sports. So I just did ESPN. I didn't want to touch my TV. I didn't want to have what you have going on right now with the losing
technical difficulties.
My stuff over here is a little sensitive too. So I wanted to make sure to leave it on there and not mess with it. But ESPN's where I went. Yes, I guess they suck. They suck and they sound just as bad as we do. But you know, it's all, what did you do? What did you got going on over there?
Well, that's not what I was going to ask. So I had it on ESPN, but I was also streaming it through Bally Sports on the computer because I just want, I like hearing from EJ and K-Ray. And the question I have to anybody who's watching that actual feed was, where the fuck did they put K-Ray and EJ, man? They're
I saw that.
Yeah, what is that? They have them on the upper deck or something? Like they don't get courtside anymore?
Yeah, I hear it's actually pretty tragic when those guys rolling from ESPN, they kick everybody out, right? Is that the thing?
Yeah, I think so. That's pretty jacked up, man.
Unless someone had COVID, they had to move them up there. I'm not sure what happened, man.
I don't know, man, but
Poor guys. Just one game, though.
Yeah, it was just one game, but still, I was just like, what the hell are they doing all the way up there? That doesn't make any sense.
Disrespectful,
110%. So, taking a look at this game against the Nuggets, obviously the expectations are high for the Phoenix Suns coming into this season. And where do you want to start, Matthew? What topic should we hit first?
What do you think, John? What should we do?
Why did we lose, Matthew?
Why do you lose?
Why do you think we lost this game?
Okay. I thought you were going to drop something, but I can go into why we lost.
Yeah, you can drop you can drop things too, No,
that's fine. You're the controller. So I think it was a good game. I think there was a lot of things that we kind of saw in this game that we saw last year. A lot of it was kind of like, hey, DA's here in the first quarter. DA's playing great. Oh, don't give him the ball into the fourth quarter. So stuff like that again.
This movie all over again.
Yeah, Booker couldn't hit a shot. He couldn't hit a floater. That is big. I mean, obviously, he had a lot of wide open threes. He had a lot of wide open mid-range shots. Could not get to go down. Chris Paul did not have his best facilitating game. I didn't look at his stats yet, but I just know from just watching him, there was just times where it's just like he was missing Ayton. He wasn't doing too good of a job moving the ball later in the game. So things like that are very, very little. I think the rest of the team played actually pretty fantastic. It's just those guys, of course, have to get you over the hump. And when they're not hitting those big three, that's why you lose the game.
Yeah, I think, there's that aspect of it. And, as you mentioned, it was a lot of the same old movie that we've seen numerous times in watching the Phoenix Suns in games where they lose. And, they're a team that almost feels like they get overconfident, if you will. They put on a good run. They play some solid offense and defense like they did in the second quarter. Yeah. And then they just kind of take their eye off the ball for a little bit. And you saw that at the end of the second quarter. And we've seen this numerous times where the Denver Nuggets went on a 9-0 run to end the second quarter, which was capped off by another buzzer beater. How much I hate those, but Nikola Jokic hit a 28-foot buzzer beater. And, that essentially got them down to, I think it was like an 8-point lead, 7-point lead going into the halftime for the Phoenix Suns. And that continued right into the second half where they came out aggressive and playing physical, and the Suns were relying too much on the three ball. I mean, the first three possessions for the Phoenix Suns in the second half were a three-pointer by McHale, brick, a three-pointer by Jay, brick, a three-pointer by Jay, brick. And if you look at the starting lineup for the Phoenix Suns, everybody scored in double figures, with the high man being Mikal Bridges at 16, except for Jay Crowder, who had 2 points that came off of free throws. He was 0 for 5 from deep, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. And we've had this conversation numerous times in the past relative to Jay Crowder, where, you kind of get what you get from Jay. and it's going to be acceptable either way. He's gonna have those nights where he goes 5 for 6 from deep, and you're like, yes, Jay. And then you have nights like tonight where he's 0 for 5. But what really frustrated me about Jay Crowder more than anything in this game was his lack of physicality and his lack of being effective on the other side of the ball. I don't care about the offensive side of the ball. He was a ghost on the defensive side of the ball. What did you see from Jay, if you even noticed he existed?
No, yeah, it was a lot of the same of where we just expect, those games during the season where he's just going to be that way. Defensively, I guess sometimes in the playoffs he kind of held his own, but honestly, a lot of the time he couldn't. And I don't really expect him to. I know he can body up the big guys once in a while, but it's bodying them up, fouling them, just doing the little dirty things, but it's not going to last. And plus, a lot of this you have to look at it's just the first game, right? So I think a lot of the confidence too the Suns had coming into this year is like, hey, we've been there before, right? And we saw it last year, like you said, where you go into halftime, the buzzer beater, and you lose any kind of momentum going in there. You don't think it's going to drag over to the third quarter, but it does. And I think it happened maybe more just because the Suns are very comfortable. They're very comfortable with who they are, and then they know they have the bench unit who comes in and helps in the third quarter. But things like that, I'm just like, Jay Crowder, I don't think can help this team get them over the hump. Either he's hitting his shots or he's not. That's just things I focus on with him. Defensively, if he's there, I just don't pay attention to that too much, honestly.
Well, and I think that was my challenge with him tonight. Is every time you notice him, you're just like, oh shit, Jay Crowder. Like, and this kind of plays into your narrative, and I think who just said it in the chat? Oh man, I missed it. Where was it? It was pretty much saying that Cam Johnson needs to be our starting 4 moving forward.
Wow.
Already,
right?
which plays right into your narrative of how much you love Cameron Johnson.
Lights, Cameron, action.
How do you feel about Cameron tonight? I wasn't
Really
overly
good.
impressed. I mean, came in off the bench, had 11 points, 4 for 10, so definitely was more aggressive than he's been in the past. 3 for 5 from 3, which was very sexy. He had the 2 rebounds and the 1 assist and a steal. So you said you felt really good about him. Tell me why.
His movement was really, really well. The movement without the ball, everything that he was doing without the ball, and then when he was gaining more attention from the ball handler, he was ready, he was set, and he was ready to shoot the threes. A lot of times last year when he would get the 3 or get the wide open shot from 3, he would be more hesitant. Tonight he wasn't, and even if he did have a hand in his face, he jacked him up. But the way he was just set and ready for those balls was just it was a bigger difference from what I saw last year. It was something where it looked like he's really been working on that. And even the off-ball things going to the rim, like he's constantly moving, whether it's the second team, whether it's with Chris Paul, he's running, doing the picks, he's running off the picks. He was doing everything tonight, even if it's like statistically it might not be that great, but he looked like he made the biggest jump from offseason this first game. It just looked like it was him on the floor, and it might not have been spectacular, but I just noticed his movement was just very, very, very precise, and he had everything down to like almost kind of like in a perfect way where just his footing was just always there and just spot on, man. I loved his work tonight a lot. I look forward to this all season long.
Oh, man. I know you do. That's why we have the Lights, Cameron action segment, because, we're definitely going to be analyzing how he jumps from second year to third year. I don't know if I was necessarily as impressed as you were. It's not the stats, because now that when I read his stat line out loud with those 11 points and 3 for 5 from deep, I was like, oh, wow, he played better than I thought he did. I feel like he was a little spotty. Again, I'm looking at these guys on defense, and I think that the big takeaway that I have from this game, as I mentioned Jay, as I talked about Cameron, is our perimeter defense was shit tonight. That's what it really came down to. If you look overall how the Denver Nuggets shot from 3, they went 17 for 39. And, the Suns went 14 for 37. So it's not a huge disparity there, but it feels like the perimeter defense and the hustle for the Phoenix Suns was present in the first half. And the majority of those threes came in the second half. I mean, that's how they started off the second half with Jeff Green, 3, Jeff Green, 3, Monty Morris, 3. It's like the second half, our perimeter defense really went to shit. And Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, the guys that, I've kind of haven't, at least on this podcast, have noticed that they didn't necessarily play a good job on the defensive end. I feel like they were really collapsing on the interior a little too much and they were having some poor rotations. And that's not to say that happened the whole game. The second half, that's when I saw that. The first half, everybody looked really crisp. There was that run that they gave up in the first quarter, and then the Suns put a run on them, by going like a 16-0 run, something to that effect.
Yeah,
and it's because a lot of it was because Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, they were creating havoc on defense, which led to the easy offense. You really started to see or did not see that in the second half. And that was what I noticed with Cam Johnson, is he looked slow. And, I get it. It's the first full game of the season. A lot of these guys had tired legs. I mean, even if you look at Denver, like they were just shooting threes. It's not like they were doing anything crazy intense relative to how they executed their offense. They had tired legs too, but they were hitting their shots, whereas the Suns weren't.
Yeah, and in the second quarter, they did pick up the defense. It was nice to see that, because at first, I thought they actually played pretty well. I thought they played pretty decent. A lot of stuff was just not falling for them defensively. Of course, it wasn't there. But what they were doing offensively looked good. Everyone that was on the court was playing great. Nothing was falling. Second quarter, defense picked up. Then the offense comes. And that was the thing last year. Remember, when you're playing the defense, everything comes at the other end. And I think that's exactly kind of what happened tonight. They kind of just got, they were second guessing themselves on defense. They weren't getting to their man when they had to. The rotations were bad, and a lot of it too. Maybe even the Nuggets. The Nuggets come in here, they want kind of a redemption. Getting swept last year, they're going to play hard. Yeah, they're going to get. They're injecting ice into their veins. In the fourth quarter, where it's not even. The game's not even over yet. So you're doing that against the Suns team that went to the finals. This would never happen with a guy injecting ice in his veins 10 years ago, or the last 10 years here in Phoenix before last year. You know what I mean? That's just things that you're going to see a lot now with these teams coming in here, man. They want to make a statement, especially a team that got swept. They want to come in here, and they're going to get when they get on fire, it's going to be a different feeling for them. And it carried on through the. I thought the Suns had a chance in the fourth to come back, and they just missed a lot of wide open shots like Booker.
Yes,
but then when you're the Nuggets and you're just feeling it, it just never ended for them. And I thought it might have stopped a little bit, but no, it just kept going.
Yeah, and shouting out Hey.0, who dropped $4.99 in the super chat. We appreciate that. We're going to use those funds to try to get Matthew a Cameron Johnson jersey. And he states that we need to be more aggressive, especially in the second half. We had a great energy in the first half, and that's exactly echoing the point that we're making. Consistently, you just need that energy to carry through the entire game. And I wasn't obviously present at the arena. I'm in Palm Desert right now. Matthew, you weren't present. It'd be interesting to hear how the energy was in that second half, because they were definitely, they were making comments on ESPN. They're like, wow, it's like the NBA Finals in here. At halftime, they're like, they're crushing it, from a sound standpoint, from an engagement standpoint. And I think that with that second half, the way that it started with the Nuggets going on an 11-2 run, that really sucked the life out of the building. And I don't know if it ever truly recovered for the Phoenix Suns. The guy who I thought really made, who definitely looked different. And, you mentioned Cameron Johnson. You're like, hey, everything that I've been waiting for, all the excitement that I have, I saw it tonight. That's how I felt about this guy. The Warden looked good tonight, man. Mikal Bridges was effective. He was aggressive. He was playing on both ends. As I mentioned earlier, he ended the game with the high point for the Suns with 16. He had 5 rebounds, 7 for 16 from the field. He shot the most attempts for the Phoenix Suns tonight. He did have a block. He did have a steal. He looked really crisp. He looked aggressive. And, those are the two guys that we'll be talking about all year, is Cameron Johnson and Mikal Bridges, and to see if they really can make that jump to the next level. I really liked what I saw from Mikal tonight. Quickness, aggressiveness. When Devin Booker came back in the game in the fourth quarter, it was Mikal Bridges who was actually connecting on shots.
Yeah, honestly, the defense, what I noticed from his defense, just really quick, was he seemed like he was in the post. He was more of a presence, keeping his hands up, deflecting some balls, had a nice block shot. But I don't feel like you saw that a lot last year. A lot of last year, I feel like it's like a defender would pass him by, then either DA or someone else that's playing center at the time would have to, help out with them. Tonight, it seemed like he could stick with guys more. He can keep his hands up, stay out of foul trouble. I actually liked a lot of the aggressiveness on offense too, which is the ball handling seemed better, the cutting, getting to the rim, a few plays. He backed down a smaller defender, and the defender tried to take the seat out from underneath him. He held onto the ball and then had a nice little layup. Like those are little things that you saw that's a difference with the ball handling and the aggressiveness on the defense. And the defense, it's always going to be there, right? And like, how much better can he get? And then you see that thing where he's just like in the paint, being a big body kind of, and it's just like, oh, okay, so he can hang with those guys down there a little bit. It wasn't like a consistent thing all night. It was just something that happened once or twice, and I was like, well, I don't think I've really seen that. That's the one thing that's really weird about trying to remember what he did last year as a whole. But that literally kind of like sparked my imagination of like, is this something he's like actually working on? And he's like lifting weights and getting bigger to help DeAndre and help whoever's in there, even JaVale McGee with a second unit to be a bigger body. So that was a little weird thing that I thought of.
No, I think you're right. I mean, that's obviously going to continue. I mean, remember Alex Len? Remember how skinny Alex Len was?
Him. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and you look at him now and he's a brick shit house. And I'm not saying Mikal Bridges will ever get to that stature, but he's definitely going to put the work in the offseason. I mean, he does this professionally. He's going to try to add some weight so he can be effective down there on the block. And I think that it was effective tonight. He did take a couple drives and he could finish. I mean, he's so quick. I mean, there's the one play where Devin Booker bounce passes to him and he jams it in. I mean, he's just so quick.
Yeah.
And it's good to see his progression. Again, something we'll continue to monitor throughout the season. Mega Giants 89 in the chat says the 2005-06 Suns and the 2021-22 Suns starts the season are very similar. And here's something interesting. The fun thing tonight was I wrote the game preview and the recap for Bright Side of the Sun. It was just good it felt good to have that rhythm again, to sit here, watch a game, sitting in the hotel room. I'm typing about the game. So I'm really into it from an analytical standpoint. And one of the things I did is I went through and I actually took a look at how all of the Phoenix Suns teams have done in season openers and home openers. So this is the 54th season for the Phoenix Suns. I should have the Stat Me Dave thing here. But I'm not Dave, so I won't do it. But the 54 season openers for the Suns. With this loss tonight, the Suns are now 29-25 in season openers all time. And they're 36-18 in home openers. The fun fact is the Suns through their first 22 seasons, so that's 1989-90, they were 18-4 in home openers. So as I was going through this, you look at the 7 seconds or less era and, even the Barkley era, a lot of those eras, we started the seasons with losses at home or, whether it be at home or on the road. I mean, that's just kind of a reoccurring theme for the Phoenix Suns is they just, we dropped some season openers, in the past like 4 years, I think we're 3-1 in the last 4 years. But, it's okay. Again, it's the first game of the season. Devin Booker, we can talk about him real quick. Really bad game. If you look at the stats and just overall, I mean, 3 for 15 from the court or from the field, 12 total points, 2 for 7 from downtown, and 4 of those points came from the free throw line. He was a team worst -24 on the plus minus, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, just a bad game for Devin Booker.
And everything looked good, honestly, from him. You say bad game, and we really just mean the misses. He was there, but seemed like he was shooting more threes than usual, and it seemed like he was like, if nothing's going
he shot
down,
7.
Yeah, if nothing's going down, that's a lot. I mean, he kind of slimmed it down last year to where he would just, get more to mid range, and we all know that, but nothing was going. So he's like, if I'm going to shoot anything, I might as well shoot a 3, and anything that was close, the little floaters, like I mentioned earlier, wasn't going in.
Yeah.
And even Chris Paul at one time was like, God damn, can you just make an open shot? Like I saw him say that, like on the court after Booker missed a wide open 3 to try to get them back in the game. They were down by like 9 at the time. They're like their last chance to get back into it. Nice pass to him. Booker misses. It's like, dude, what is up? But it is the first game. It's the one guy, right, on the squad that had a lot of reps, of course, over the summer, playing in the USA Championship, the Olympics.
Team USA, yes.
Team USA playing in the Olympics. So you had that this offseason. You knew he didn't play much of preseason, but the last game. So it's going to take some time, and that's fine. So it's nothing to worry about. I liked what I saw from him, though. It was a lot of the same stuff, nothing really new. jumped out, but it was a lot of the same stuff, and the same book is a good book.
So Sean H asks in our chat, he says, Lissy, what do you think about Book's body language? Looked a little disinterested. You're the body language expert on the podcast. What is your response to Sean there?
Well, Sean, I don't know if I noticed that. Did he look a little disinterested? I feel like maybe he was just frustrated with his game, but I didn't see like disinterested. You mean like on the team? Is he disinterested because of Ayton not getting his money? Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, no, I can see what Sean is saying, because normally there's a little bit of fire in Book. Okay. And we saw that. I mean, he did get a technical foul, but and even Kenneth Payne says it in the chat as well. He says his energy seemed off to me, and I can kind of agree with that. It seemed like, he was too stone cold. You normally get a little bit of fire. What's great about Devin Booker is in the interviews, in the pre-games, he's always just stone cold. He's very just kind of vanilla answers, just, never smiling, never frowning. But when the game starts, you see a little bit of energy from him. If he hits a shot, and maybe it's because he didn't hit a shot, he went 3 for 15, so he wasn't screaming or yelling at any point during this game.
You know what I was actually thinking today, and it's funny that you kind of brought this up with Booker, Sean. I actually thought that, his relationship with Kendall Jenner, I'm not even joking around. Like, it's so, I feel like it's so intense and romantic in a way, right? I mean, he's been with her for forever. They had a summer together, and now today it's like the start of basketball. Practice in the morning, game at night. You're going to have a game Friday, Saturday. You're just so in love, right? You don't want to be away from that person. And it's maybe just something in his mind. I'm serious. Like, it might be something there too. It's just like he loves the game. He loves being on the Suns. He loves playing here, of course. But and I'm sure he gets to see her after the game. But it's just like maybe it's taking a toll mentally. Like, hey, I'm going to be missing a lot of her coming up, and it's going to suck because I love her to death.
he just wants to be around her all the time. He doesn't even care about the game anymore.
Yes.
Oh, that's cute. Well, we have a new segment here.
You can bet on it, bet on it, bet on it, bet on it.
I never even heard that song before.
It's from High School Musical 2.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So what Bet on it is you'll notice if you follow us on Twitter that every morning of a game day, we're going to just reach out to you and we're going to give you a parlayed player prop. Insert sportsbook sponsor here. Maybe DraftKings will pick us up. Maybe FanDuel will pick us up. And this morning we asked, considering DeAndre Ayton is in the news, what was he going to do relative to total points and total rebounds? And, is he going to do over 15.5 points or under 15.5 points? Over 15.5 rebounds, under 15.5 rebounds. And there's 4 possible outcomes. And based on the polls that we put out there on Twitter, we're going to bet that. We're going to bet $1 per game. Okay. The odds on tonight, the 48% of the Jamsters said over points and over rebounds for DeAndre Ayton, 15.5 and over 10.5. The odds were plus 218 for that parlay. And if we put down $1, we win $2.18. So after the first official game, we lost money, Matthew. We lost $1 tonight because he was under on both. Under on both. And that brings me. That brings me.
Ayton, watch.
That's right, Jamsters. It ain't going nowhere. Under 15.5 points and under 10.5 rebounds because he ended with a total of 15 points and 6 rebounds. So we're down $1. But here's what's frustrating about this is he had 13 points at halftime. Again, we said it earlier, the same old movie. DA disappears in the second half completely. I don't know if this is by design. I don't know if this is by a lack of aggressiveness. And I don't want to go and say this is the reason why he's not maxed out. I don't want to start that narrative.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people are saying. But I want to know just like, what's the why? Why does he disappear? Why does he ghost us for a quarter and a half? Is he back in the locker room texting Kendall? What's going on, Matthew?
Oh, jeez. I hope.
Does he love her too?
That'd be heartbreaking.
It's like your older brother's girlfriend, you love her too.
Yeah. Well, just on DA's play really quick, he, like Cam Johnson, getting the spot seemed like he was a lot smoother offensively. DA, that is. DA seemed like he was smoother offensively in the first quarter. It seemed like even the second quarter, it seemed like the offense as a whole was a lot quicker. They were flowing better
Oh, he
because
looked
DA looked like he knew exactly what to do every play. And it seemed like sometimes his teammates were even late to give him the ball because he was already ready for it. He was ready. He was under the basket late. Oh, here comes the coverage, and he has to pass it back out. So you saw a lot of that, and then you saw all the same things of, Chris Paul not giving him the ball. I don't know what it is, but it killed us last year in the playoffs a lot. And our post-game pods were all about, why is he not getting the ball?
Yeah.
Why is he not getting the ball? It was every game we would lose, right?
Mhm.
Every game we would lose. He would start out with 12 points, and he made 8 points. He had 8 points in the first. Easy breezy. He had a 3-pointer made. It's just like, I don't know why they go away from it. Is it a Chris Paul thing? Because a lot of it looks like it from our standpoint, looks like it. So I don't know. I'm not going to blame anybody, but it's just so strange because no other center that should deserve the max. Even you heard it from Bill Simmons. He deserves the max.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's going to be, a superstar, I guess, already. But a Karl Anthony Towns, a center that can just score at will like DeAndre, and he even had the floater tonight. Why are they going away from him?
He had all the tools out there tonight.
Everything. He
hit a
so
three.
Good.
He hit a three. His first shot, the first points of the season for the Phoenix Suns, a fadeaway 11-foot jumper by DeAndre Ayton over Nikola Jokic. Looked fucking smooth. He hits the jumpers. He was picking up the trash inside the lane, and then all of a sudden, and I don't have the numbers in front of me on minutes played in both of those halves, and I'm sure I could find them somewhere. But it's just like the minutes played, like how many minutes did he play in the first half versus how many minutes did he play in the second half? But it was just like, where did he go? Where did he go? Like, I just, it was frustrating because that's the one thing that you knew was working. When you have the team out there jacking up 3-pointers, you're like, well, hold on. I mean, that's what made the Suns so good last year is, and we saw this before, happening wins and losses, where they'd fall in love with that 3-ball. They do it for like 2 or 3 possessions, and then like Chris Paul, like, no, guys, like let's play our offense, let's get the mid-range shots, let's let's feed Da, all the fun stuff, and it just none of it really was clicking tonight, and it was again, it's just frustrating not to see Da continue that dominant performance. I mean, that's why all of the Jamsters who voted on our poll on Twitter wanted us to take both overs because they thought he was going to come out and just whoop some ass, and he hit both unders. He did the exact opposite. It's not like he went over points and under rebounds or under points and over rebounds. He got both unders. So you owe us a buck, Jamsters. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, if this is who he is, I don't see that tonight. I don't see like him being, I'm going to take a back seat. He was there still. He was available. It looks like. I don't know what happened, man. It's an unsolved mystery, honestly.
We need to get that Robert Stack in here, like dun 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 dun. The terrifying music. Oh, that's probably before your time. Unsolved Mysteries, bro.
Oh, okay. That's
Unsolved Mysteries. Come on, man.
I know. I'm a loser.
So let's talk about there's one guy who we haven't brought up yet, and I've definitely been waiting for this one because he really fortified everything I love about him.
All I can say is, Sham, wow.
Dude, Landry Shamet, I mean, it got to the point tonight where we were sitting there watching the game, or I was sitting there watching the game. I'm like, dude, we need points. Put in Landry Shamet already, because he is he's automatic points, man. Ends the night with a total of 11 points on 4 for 5 shooting, 3 rebounds, only played 19 minutes. And I feel like that's a crime.
I mean, here we go with this, right? I think like when Book's not hitting, Chris Paul's a little off. You're not going to go to DA. You might as well have like Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and Shamet in there to run the show. I mean, the second unit's what got them back in the third quarter.
Yes.
So these are things that we got to look out for this season, because if this keeps happening, and I doubt it will, I bet you we're going to win a lot more games with our starting unit, of course. But when they're playing that well, and Shamet, of course, is a guy where he's just everywhere. He is a hustle guy already, right? Making those plays, saving the ball. Him and Nate are probably the 2 hustle guys coming off the bench. And I just think that you got to play these guys, and it's 19 minutes. So maybe, I don't know, he just got paid, but what's his restriction really the first night? What would it be, like 25 minutes? Throw him in there a little extra. He was a solid player from anywhere he was on the court. So missing out on him was a big no-no for the Suns tonight. I think, yeah, you're right. Keep him in a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think that he's already displaying the ability to fill up the bucket quick. He wasn't getting burned necessarily on defense. That's not why you took him out. And again, it's game one, and we know this. Like, we're obviously over analyzing everything because we have a Suns podcast, and that's what we do. Is we have a post game show, and we're going to talk about all aspects of this particular game, not the long term health of the lineups and things of that nature. But you're starting to just try to understand how Monty Williams is going to utilize this deep team that he has in an effort to be successful. There was one lineup out there that started, I want to say, the second quarter. Cameron Payne came in, and he was just kind of all over the place. He was just like, he was like a piece of dynamite that just blew up. I mean, he was just so excited to be playing and out there, and like, so his first few possessions were really bad. So to start the second quarter, it was Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, along with Abdul Nader, Cam Johnson at the 4, and JaVale McGee at the 5. And that really kind of settled the Suns down. That's actually what started that first initial 16-0 run that got the Suns not only back in the game, but up 16 points, is because Chris Paul was out there utilizing Landry Shamet, utilizing those assets around him in an effort to be successful. And you didn't really see Monty Williams go back to those kind of lineups in the third quarter. Going into the fourth, it was Cam Payne who came in, who, again, it was more of a contained piece of dynamite going into that, or at the end of the third quarter. And that's what the Suns did. They had kind of really good middle quarters, but really bad end quarters. They ended with 16 points in the fourth quarter, man, 20 points in the first, and then 38 in the second. So, I mean, they scored in the first and the fourth quarter. They scored 36 points. They had 38 in the second alone. I mean, that's the frustrating part. The constant inconsistency. They don't even score 100 points on opening night. I feel bad for anybody who's in Arizona who actually bet on the Suns to score anywhere near the over or anything like that. I'm glad I'm in California and I can't.
I know. I'm sure they have fun all over the place. We thought maybe this would be a barn burner, but it wasn't. Honestly, what I looked at with Chris Paul, I love how he played with the second unit. It's so weird how even last year he's so good with the second unit. It's almost like put him on the bench. He trusts those guys more. It's weird. He has, maybe it's because Ayton's out. Oh, maybe that's all it is. Maybe because Ayton's not playing with them. That's probably the biggest thing. But no, he does a good job with that lineup. I actually wrote down that lineup when they were playing because they look so good together. But that's just another weapon for the Suns. I mean, going into this year, it's like him with the bench. So you're going to get a lot more players get rest while he's in there. Then he comes out. Booker comes in. Cam Payne. Yeah, Cam Payne did start a little frazzled, but then in the third quarter, he kind of picked it up, got the intensity back for the Suns. So it's like they trade off and on. And you have a lot of these mixed lineups with the bench and the starters that look really good tonight, I thought.
Yeah, and that's going to be the thing moving forward for this team, is seeing how Monty Williams utilizes all of these different pieces and sees what clicks and what doesn't. But let's play the other side of this coin, if you will. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. You have to give them credit for coming into Phoenix and putting up 110 points on a team that swept them in the NBA Western Conference semifinals last year. They're led by Nikola Jokic, 27 points and 13 rebounds, 13 to 22 shooting, 1 for 6 from deep. Like, that would drive me crazy. If DA's shooting 6 from deep, like, I'm not happy. What'd you see from Denver tonight that really, stood out to you? And how do you think that their season's going to go without Jamal Murray and with Michael Porter Jr. And the rest of that team?
I think they'll be good. They'll be solid. I think tonight was a game the Suns could have probably won if they ever put together another run. But what the Nuggets did tonight, I think, is just because of what happened last year. That had to take a big part of like how the energy they came out with. Will Barton, of course, he's always going to be that guy, right? Every time we play the Nuggets, he's going to be the guy it's on fire. MPJ was the one guy I was looking at. So his mid-range was looking pretty good. He hit 1-3 towards the late in the fourth quarter to kind of seal the deal for the Nuggets. But everything looked good. Jokic did shoot a lot of threes and miss all of them almost. But I liked his game too. Everything looked great. He was taking the ball from coast to coast like he always does and does a little layup around everybody. Everyone's trying to guard him, and he just like slithers his arm through everybody and gets a lay-in. So it seems like the same team. Without Jamal Murray, it's always a question because of how good they look when he plays solid, and he's that guy to give him the energy, and he's a lights out shooter. But I just think this team is good enough to actually get back to a place to where they can be a contender in a way to where they give people fits. I know they got swept in the
Yes.
playoffs, but I think MPJ, if he can build a good season, he'll be like that missing piece that they didn't have last year.
Yeah, this is a team that I don't know, when you look at seeding, if they're going to be a top 6 seed. They're a playing game team to me, but
Yeah,
they're a playing game tough team. Because one, they have the experience without a doubt, and two, come playoff time and playing game, they might have Jamal Murray back.
mm-hmm.
So that makes them a tough team, and when you have the Nikola Jokic, they could potentially be maybe a 5 seed, but I don't know if they could be much higher than that. As a lot of the Jamsters are saying in the chat, and again, thank you to the people who are joining us on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
It's great to have the Jamsters back.
I know.
I'm so excited to be doing this again on a consistent basis. But a lot of people are saying like this isn't about the Nuggets. This is about the Suns. The Suns didn't play well. The as Kenneth Payne says, like our defense and our energy wasn't good enough. We run at their shooters and they have nothing. I'll disagree with that. I mean, they were fucking nailing those threes late. Co JJM asks in the chat, is losing Willie Green part of the defense looking so bad? And I'll say no. I'll say no. I mean, if on a long enough timeline this team is a bad defensive team, then yes, I think that narrative is something we need to explore. But this is the first game of the season. Let's get about 20 games in the season. I always like to get to about 20 games in the season. Then you really have a good understanding of who your team is, what their true strengths are, and what their true weaknesses are. And after one game, it's just not enough of a sample size to really make that decision. Don't you agree, Matthew?
Yeah, no, it's not at all. The effort and stuff, I think it's been such a weird week for the Suns. Everything that happened with DA, that's a lot. It's a lot to go into a game, and then you had to focus on him, even though they didn't focus on him late in the game. But that's just a lot for a team to come in there and then facing the Nuggets team, like I mentioned twice already, they got swept. So you have those two things. It's going to be a little off tonight. All right, it's going to take some time. This team will still win 50+ games. And there's so much things I saw tonight that I'm very excited to watch going to the rest of the year, even though it was a loss, because these players, the development, everything is still there. Everything is progressing. Just little things here or there, we would have got the win.
Devin
Booker.
Devin Booker. If Devin Booker had shown up tonight, we would have. You're not wrong with that statement, though. You really aren't. I mean, 3 for 15. If he hits, 3 more of those shots, that's 6 extra points. All of a sudden, this game is a lot closer, and a lot of different things are occurring with our offense and the way that we're approaching different possessions at the back end of the game. So it's a bunch of little factors that equated overall to a victory for the Nuggets and for a loss for the Suns. Like I mentioned, the first quarter and the fourth quarter, man, 36 total points in those 2 quarters. That's not going to cut it. 38 in the second. We finally we saw what this team is capable of, or we saw what this team's capable of. And I think back to last season where we started 8-8 and there's that gelling period. And, I think it'll be less this season because so many of these guys have played together and the new guys who've been added to this team really look good. Landry Shamet, JaVale McGee looked good tonight as well. He wasn't anything crazy, but he went ahead and he added 6 points on 3 or 4 shooting and he had 8 rebounds coming off the bench. Like that really addresses a big need of what the Phoenix Suns have. Shout out to Han Sagan in the chat, $4.99 via the super chat. Thank you. That's $5 more towards Matthew's Cam Johnson jersey. This is just a classic revenge game, is what Han says. He says this was like the Nuggets game 5, no big deal. Very, very true statement there.
Yep.
Again, it's unfortunate that we lost, but there's 81 more of these things to go. So I'm not overly worried. Matthew, are you overly worried in any way, shape, or form? Was there anything that you saw tonight where you're like, shit?
Yeah, just the Ayton thing. That was the biggest thing. I'm like, if that pokes his head all season long, there's a reason we brought back Ayton Watch, because we're gonna be doing this a lot.
We can't help it. He's the number 1 overall pick.
We did answer. Just like James Jones came on the broadcast and he talked about. I don't know if you saw it, but he was with ESPN,
and then
he said
they
couldn't
agree in the middle of the
years.
interview.
Yeah. They couldn't agree on the years. It's like, did you even hear anything about that before? So it's like there's little things that need to come out that we need to know more about this team and why, if they're not giving Ayton the ball or something. I don't know.
So that's an interesting conversation. So I don't know
Mhm.
if you saw details about that, but essentially, with DA, it was I want the full max or nothing. So there was no really even negotiating
Mhm.
for DA, whereas there was with McHale. McHale wanted a ton of money. The Phoenix Suns wanted to give him less than that. And they kind of met in the middle, and that's what's frustrating about DA. And I feel like his agent really fucked him on this one. Because it's going to create a bad narrative throughout the season for him. That's always going to be talked about. And I think that probably about halfway during the season, I wouldn't be surprised if DA's agent gets the axe, because essentially the Suns don't want, one of the stories that came out was the Suns didn't want to offer him the 5 years. They wanted to offer him the 4 years because they wanted to keep flexibility open in case they wanted to pick up another player who had received a full rookie extension, which includes potentially the 5 years.
Yeah.
If you listen to Fanning the Flames on brightsideofthesun.com, they talk about a lot on their Lost podcast, and they mentioned the name De'Aaron Fox as somebody who potentially James Jones could be. He's playing the long-term greed, not the short-term greed game. And DA didn't want to, he wanted to sit there and just kind of, no, I want the full max. And
I want the respect, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was all about the
Yeah.
respect relative to his draft class. And again, nights like tonight, kind of remember, everybody was really high on DA about his performance in the NBA Finals. Everyone knows that I'm a massive DeAndre Ayton supporter. I love him. I think I tweeted out from the Suns Jam Session account earlier in the game because in that first half he was playing fantastic. Like, I actually dropped this one on all of our Twitter followers.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
And come the second half, I'm like, where is this guy? And like, that's, as you mentioned, that's the story of DA. So,
Yes.
when the offseason comes, we're going to talk about it all year. And when the offseason comes next year, he's a restricted free agent. And that's when we're really going to know what his market value is. He thinks his market value is a rookie extension 5-year max, which, as Kenneth Payne actually hit me up on Facebook, and he's just like, dude, do you realize that he's asking for more money than Devin Booker makes? I was like, dude, I didn't even think about that, So it's like
me neither.
That's what he thinks his market value is. And you know what? When restricted free agency happens next year, we'll truly know. And we're going to have another year to take a look at DeAndre and see if he's worth that. So again, I trust in James Jones at the end of the day. I do trust James Jones. People are going to sit there. Bill Simmons, it's Bob Sarver's fault. Oh, Bob Sarver doesn't want to spend any money. You know what? Maybe James Jones is making just a really smart business decision, and you're just not giving him the credit for that.
That's what I said last podcast, where I was just saying I think James Jones is still the guy. I know Robert Sarver's going to get a lot of crap, but I think James Jones is making the decisions. Is the Shamet thing for the reason the Shamet deal, when it came through, I'm like, that's a James Jones deal. I feel like that's nothing to do. Robert Sarver, James Jones paid him more money than we ever thought they were going to give Shamet. That's James Jones. It's a long-term thing. And I've never been part of anything ever to where I flip-flop whose side I'm on in this situation. Okay, I wanted DA to get signed, of course, and you're saying the max for 5 years. No, I don't want that. He wanted that. I don't know. We don't know anything about this, and that's what sucks. And then I see like DA walking on the court, one possession when he's coming in off the bench, and Monty Williams looked at him like, "What the hell did you just say?" or something. It was a weird look he gave him or something. So I don't know if there is something going on to where he's just being a little bit. He hasn't been to media day, or he hasn't been to the media.
Yeah, he's not talking to media after practices. Yeah.
So he's not doing that for 2 days in a row. So is it going to get unprofessional? It's going to be one of those things that drags on because of his attitude. So I'm so back and forth, and it's like you have your dad, you have your stepdad, your step pepper. You like both of them, but some days you don't like the other, right? Whichever one you're with, you like that one, and then the other one you like when you're with that one. So it's back and forth. I cannot make up my mind whose side I'm on. So I just hope it doesn't destroy this team now.
Yeah,
and I wasn't even think that earlier.
I don't know if it will. I honestly don't think it, because Chris Paul's on the team, because you JaVale McGee, because you have such positive. The reason contract situations used to fuck the Suns in the mid 2010s is because they never had that quality veteran leadership. So you could have Marquise Morris and Marcus Morris get pissed off. You could have Eric Bledsoe get pissed off. You could have all these guys who didn't have, like Chris Paul will pull him aside and say, "Hey man, don't fuck this up, man. This is my 17th year and I want to go for an NBA championship. championship. You better check your
Mhm.
attitude at the door, motherfucker. Like, this is all about being professional. We're workers here. We're
Wait,
professional.
I
Okay.
see DA looking over him like, oh, whatever. Like I see
Yeah.
that. I see him just be like, oh,
Well,
whatever. I
I'll
want
tell
my
you
money.
this. It ain't no Ben Simmons situation. Can we agree on that?
It's not. Thank
Thank
God that thing is
God.
happening because it's overshadowing this a little bit
Yes,
more.
it is. Yes, it is. Long John Silver 85 in the chat says,
Yes,
sign
just
and
do
trade for Cat. You said
Just
go
do
ahead,
it.
just do fuck that.
No, I'm just saying. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
and
gonna
no-
talk about this all year. Just might as well get it over with, man. I mean,
No.
if DA is gonna be ignored on the floor, you might as well have Cat on the team.
Nah, F that, dude. The last thing I
I'm
want is
not
Carl Anthony
serious.
Towns.
I'm
I know
not
you. I know you.
serious.
I
I'm
know you're
just
not.
saying.
I know you're not. But I just
Yeah.
last thing I want is Carl Anthony Towns. I like defense, and you know what? DA showed today that he can play the defense again. I
Yeah.
mean, Jokic dropped
You can't stop
27,
Jokic.
but you can't,
can't
stop him.
stop him.
Exactly.
No, he's
exactly.
blubbered.
Okay, I haven't made a drop for this yet, but I will. Trust me, it'll probably have something to do with like picking your nose or something. But again, we are doing the pod versus pod pick'em, us versus Fanning the Flames. They put their podcast out once a week, and they announced on their podcast their picks for this week. They picked the Denver Nuggets to lose this game, as did we. So we're both 0-1 on the season. They have the Suns winning the next 2 games. Obviously, we only have we go a game at a time because we go live after every game. Do you think the Suns will beat the Lakers before we preview the Suns versus the Lakers?
I think they're gonna lose. I think the Suns. This is what we did last year. Every time the Suns would lose, I'd be like, they're gonna lose, and then when they win, we're gonna be like, they're win. But the Lakers lost the first game. I think they have to win. They just want to win, right? They want to play the Suns. They want to defeat them because of what they did to them last year. So it might be 0-2 against the first 2 teams we played in the playoffs. So I'm going that way.
Well, I mean, we have to make this decision as a pod because
I know.
I'm the one who has to lock it in. So you're saying
right.
Suns lose against the Lakers on Friday night at Los
Mhm.
Angeles.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. Damn you, Lissy.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And then Kenneth Payne says we're going to beat the shit out of the old ass Lakers.
All right, I changed my mind.
Well,
Suns
so
will
let's preview this game a little bit. We got a few minutes here left on the pod. Let's talk about the Lakers, okay? And then based on this conversation, we can go ahead and make our official pick, and I'll lock it in. And you can follow these picks if you want to at pickwatch.com. If you go to NBA, you can search for So Says Jay and Suns Jam. You can actually see our standings, so you can officially see who we pick, but we'll talk about it on all of our podcasts anyways. So the Lakers, obviously, they're coming off the opening night loss against the Warriors. Did you watch that game, Matthew?
No, I actually did. I wasn't able to really watch basketball last night, dude.
Man, I
Yeah.
enjoyed watching that game. You know
Did
what's
you?
funny? I'm gonna change the subject a little bit here, but it'll all come around. So obviously tonight was what, game 4 of the NLCS, right? Dodgers versus Braves.
Was it? See, I don't know that.
Yeah, so I was, I'm here in Palm Desert. I'm at one of our communities that's getting ready to get opened. And essentially what I had to do all day was unload boxes and inventory the items. They're like kitchen items, like I'm a food and beverage director, so we're getting ready to open a food and beverage outlet here. So I'm literally just like going through pots and pans and ladles and all kinds of crap. And even though I'm doing this, I'm excited, right? I'm excited because I know tonight's going to be fun. And like the Dodgers were the furthest thing from my mind. I was like, dude, it's basketball season, man. Like I watched the Lakers and I watched the Warriors last night, the Suns today. Yeah, the Dodgers lost. They're down 3-1. And I don't know if I care. Like, of course they're my team and I love them. And like, it sucks that they're going to end up losing to the Braves. But I'm like, you know what? If they lose, just like your Yankees lost, like I don't have to fucking think about baseball again. I can focus 110% on basketball. So, but looking at the Lakers matchup, I was watching that game last night. The problem that the Lakers had were twofold. One, they looked tired in about the middle of the third on, and the Warriors just took off because they're young and they're youthful. And that's obviously the continual narrative on the Lakers is they're old. It's like, well, yeah, I agree with that. And you saw it come to fruition. And the second thing that I saw last night was the integration with Russell Westbrook is definitely going to take some time because he wants to be aggressive. But again, playing next to LeBron, like you don't know when you're allowed to be aggressive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know when the Suns play the Lakers if they're going to have any of that figured out. I think you have JaVale McGee is, that's kind of a little revenge game for him. I don't know, man. I think the Suns take this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna swing the other way. I'm gonna say they win too, because when I was thinking about it, when you were talking about the Dodgers and how much you don't. It makes sense you don't care about them because who cares about baseball? But I was thinking that the Suns, they looked good, and I said it all podcast on to look good. There's little things they could have won the game. So the Lakers just they look old. The thing is they do look old, and when that happens and the media talks about it all day long, they're gonna come back out Friday night and look even better. So that's what's kind of scary to me. But I'll pick the Suns with you. All right, let's hold
Okay.
hands. Let's do the Suns.
All right, let's hold hands and lock it in. This is the same pick as Fanning the Flames, so we're both picking the Suns to win the first 2 games. I'm hoping that we are tied with them at the end of this one. We will be no matter what because we're picking the same exact team. So, one thing I want to talk, we got about 5 minutes left on the podcast, so let's go ahead and drop
thoughts. Brains?
Has to do with the NBA, not necessarily the Phoenix Suns, but we still like to talk about basketball because we are basketball fans. Ben Simmons, talk about it.
Yeah. So I've always been a big supporter of him, right? Like I love his
have.
game. Yeah, I've had his back, and I thought about that all day today after hearing everything that's happened in practice. And then they're saying Joel Embiid says we're not going to babysit this guy.
Yeah, man.
That's why it's so weird from the outside. You don't know what's going on, and I just assume that this guy is there. He's ready to play, but I guess not, man. I guess he has the biggest attitude thing. I was worried about it for Ayton, maybe, but Ben Simmons just does not give a crap, and he wants to be somewhere else. And he could go somewhere next year and be great, but the way he's exiting, this is probably worse than what Harden did.
Oh,
It's a bad look. Everything that's been said, even when you have Joel Embiid saying that to the media, you just know that they were holding it in for so long to try to get rid of this motherfucker. Like that's probably what they were thinking, right?
Yeah, probably. And again, like with the Harden situation, Harden handled it like a seasoned veteran would. He's like, listen, I'm gonna play the part. I'm gonna eat a lot of chicken wings. I'm gonna come in overweight, and I'm going to perform on the court, but I'm gonna take some plays off. And like, but Ben Simmons is approaching this like, God, I don't want to say like a millennial because I technically am a millennial, but I've managed millennials in the past, and one of the things that you see with people or things that I've run into as a manager in the past is entitlement and a sense of leverage that does not exist. Like, I don't care if, like you might have been babied your whole life, and now that you're in the real world and something's not going your way, you sit there and be like, well, no, this doesn't, I get what I want. And it's like, well, you know what? The real world doesn't care if you get what you want. Again, with the Ben Simmons things, and this is where when you connect it with DeAndre Ayton, the situation, in both situations, the leverage, the entitled assumed leverage doesn't exist. Like with Ben Simmons, like he just signed that max deal. He's got 40 years left on this max deal. With DeAndre Ayton, like he thinks he's worthy of a max, and the Suns are like, okay, we'll call your bluff. We'll see what you're worth on the market next year. And you'll see that no one necessarily is going to pay that much for you. Or if it is, it's like Cleveland or something, So it's like this perceived perception is very, it's not being executed properly. And these guys are getting bad advice. And listen to Bill Simmons and Jackie McMullen talk about it on the Bill Simmons podcast today. They had a valid point. It's like, this guy might be going through some mental health issues, and that's okay. If that's the case, but he needs to own that and talk about it because he's acting really strange. He just doesn't give a shit. He's gone into that locker room and he's just been a poison to that team. And it sucks because I do like watching the 76ers.
I do too, and I love those guys together. I really do. And his game though just got to a level to where I think he's satisfied with. I think that's all it is. I think he knows like his game. He's like, I'm not going to improve anywhere else, even though people are asking me to. So it's like, why can't I just do what I do and then help this team win? Even though there's certain situations in the playoffs where he just can't provide anything to help the team. So that's where he stands, and I think it is just something to where he's not going to put in the work to do anything else. And that's when you have players talking out about him, that's the one thing I feel like players see out of other players is that work ethic. And that's the one thing that
absolutely.
probably ticks a lot of them off if you're not putting that in.
And
And Joel
the
Embiid was
key.
one of those guys too, but now I feel like he's turned it around. And maybe that rubbed off on Ben Simmons, where they both were just kind of guys, we're big, we're gonna get the ball under the hoop, play some good defense. But now Embiid went the other way. Embiid's ready to win a championship. Ben Simmons, of course, he wants to, but is he putting in the work? And obviously not. If you're getting kicked out of practice, you're not.
All right, so Blaze Megatron, one of our elite jamsters, he says, feel sorry for my fellow countryman. He gets massively dissed, and now he's the baby. Come on, Voida, Doc fucked this up. If you're referring to Doc Rivers when being asked after his performance last year in the playoffs, if Ben Simmons was the answer at point guard, and him just saying, I don't know, which is an honest answer, that's not massively dissed. That's reality. Is Ben Simmons truly the answer at point guard for that team? So it's like,
yeah. Have you ever heard his voice?
It's how you respond to those to criticism. Again, some people, when provided with feedback, like Joel Embiid, when he got that feedback, he worked on it, and he still's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he got. You want to talk about being dissed? I mean, the whole TNT crew fucking murdered that guy.
I know.
Night, and you give a little bit of feedback about a guy who played really poorly. There's rumors now coming out about Ben Simmons, saying, "Oh, I was around the masseuse who everyone has, the COVID masseuse, so who he potentially had to have to play in a game 7 because he lacked complete and utter confidence in himself." Again, I don't understand, or I do understand Philly's take on this, and it's like, dude, Ben Simmons, all he's doing is digging himself further a grave, because it's like you said, it's one thing if the media sits there and says, like, this guy, he's a baby, or if we have takes on it, but when you have teammates coming out and saying that shit, like, that's when you fucked up, because it's your fellow teammates who you have to ride or die with. Like, I've been in the Army. I've had people who you've had to trust next to you and be like, dude, this person's got to save me and defend me if we go to war. And there's some people you liked and some people you didn't trust. And, Ben Simmons has crossed over to that point where it's like, they don't want to go to war with this guy anymore.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's really a mental health thing as much as it's just a confidence. Maybe it's just that. And that's hard for a lot of people, man. I mean, for myself, like, you putting yourself out there even more in the rejection you might get from it, that's hard to face, dude. And it's something that he probably just faces every day, and he doesn't want to go through it. He is who he is, and he's still young, man. So maybe, and I hope he gets over it. I hope he has a great
I do
career,
too.
I love him as a player. I love him even if he keeps the same game. I don't care. I love watching this guy play. Just get it to another team. Get it over with. And they should have took some other trades, but now it might be too late.
And lastly, Blaze, he's like, you should say yes, support your guy, and not give a soundbite. Sometimes you get those questions when you're being asked them in front of the microphone, and he God forbid he was real in that moment. I get it. Long John Silver says some things just stay in house, and I get that too. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, then why do they do the interviews if they're just going to give us the vanilla answer every time? He was actually real in that moment, right after losing in the playoffs, and he just had a real moment, and it wasn't anything overly detrimental to Ben Simmons, but Ben Simmons took it as detrimental. He overread into it. Again, he overread that moment. But we've spent way too much time talking about nonsense stuff. But, again, thank you to Blaze Megatron for conversing with us. That's what this is about. And I think that's it, Matthew. I think it's time to wrap this bad boy up. You ready?
I'm ready, man. And honestly,
all right,
ending the podcast with Ben Simmons, we should do that the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Ben Simmons talks.
Well, here, let's play this bite. Let's get positive. We've got Suns basketball on Friday night, 7 p.m. Correct? Is it 7 or 8 p.m.?
It's 7 o'clock.
Okay, 7 p.m. on ESPN.
7 and 7 Saturday.
Perfect. Back to back up.
Pissed.
Back to back upcoming. Stay positive, Matthew. But we have a back to back upcoming. So the Suns Jam session will be live right after those games. The best post-game podcast on Planet Orange. Make sure if you listen to this podcast, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're getting your podcast. Still not getting any new 5-star Apple podcasts. So we need you, Jamsters, to go ahead, give us 5 stars, leave us a review. If you're watching this podcast, please hit that thumbs up button. Let everyone know where they can get the best post-game Phoenix Suns content on Planet Orange. You can follow me at Darth Voida. You can follow Matthew
at Matthew Lissy.
You can follow the show at Suns Jam. We'll see you Friday night. I'll be back home. Woohoo! Matthew, take us home.
All right, everyone, go home and love your family.
All right. We'll see you Friday. And hopefully my camera works better. All right, then.